Hello and welcome to NB Drives. My name is Nishmanya and this is the Land Rover Defender 110. It's an SUV I have been so eager to drive for so long. It's been almost 2.5 years or so since this car came out, but I absolutely love the styling of it and the road presence of it, and I've always wanted to get behind the wheel of it, and finally that's gonna happen today. But let me tell you a little bit about this Defender. The new generation made the switch from a ladder frame chassis to Land Rover's DX7 platform, which is a monocoque platform. And many people thought that it would be a little, soft. It won't be as rugged and tough as a Land Rover is supposed to be, especially a Defender. But I think when the first clips of this car came out, which were for the James Bond movie, No Time to Die, Land Rover released this really cool clip of the Defender just jumping over a little mound and rolling over. I'll insert that if I can. And I think that really put a lot of people to ease about the rugged and toughness of the Defender. I've always thought that this is a very nice car to look at. Now today I'm going to find out what it's like to live with inside in terms of its interiors and features, and what it's like to drive. So join me for this review and let's get into it. The designers of the Defender had a very tough task when they took over the project. They not only had to keep styling cues from the original model in place, but they also had to make it work with the modern design language. And I think they've done a brilliant job with the overall styling. With the Defender up front, there are a few things that are a slight nod to the older car. These round LED inserts on the headlight hark back to the round headlights of the older Defender. And of course the Defender lettering on the hood. That's also something that was seen on older models. Apart from that, it's a very boxy and squared off look. I like how the bumpers have these really chunky elements down here. The main air intake up top is not very big, but most of it is concentrated down here at the air dam. I already said the headlights look really cool, the LED units, and they have a matrix function on this top spec HSE variant, and the small fog lights up here. They look small, but they do a decent job in terms of lighting up the road. Another thing I really like is the hood. Now it might look like a clamshell unit, but it's actually only the center section that opens. And Land Rover has done this really interesting thing of adding texture here, which looks like a metallic grate, but it's actually plastic. And it's so that if you're putting anything on the hood, it has some traction to keep it in place. There's a lot on the side of the new Defender that I like and that we should talk about. First of all, I like how the front basically drops off like a cliff. It's so boxy and it really fits the Defender aesthetic very well. The wheel arches are nicely flared out, give it that really muscular stance. And this top spec HSE model rides on 20-inch diamond cut alloy wheels that look really nice, and they're wrapped in really chunky tires as well. Now moving along the side, you see that same upright look continues. The window line is basically all finished in gloss black to give a sort of floating roof look on the side. I also really like this shoulder line. It is so well chiseled all the way through and really adds to that muscular styling and looks very nice. While we're on this side, I want to make a quick mention of an accessory that's there on this specific Defender, which is these lovely boards, fold-out boards that tuck away when they're not in use. We'll do that in a minute. Apart from that, other important things to talk about, there is the body color panel here, which has been a little divisive for many people. But this is essentially where the C pillar is, and Land Rover has covered it up with body color paint. But you can get accessory boxes for extra storage. You can even carry a jerry can extra for the adventurous people out there. You don't want to run out of fuel with this thing. And there's also the Safari window on top, which is supposed to let people at the back look out at animals when out on a safari. Also note that the new Defender gets these air vents, large ones on either side, got Defender lettering. The one on the right hand side is actually just for show. It's there to keep the symmetry of the design. But out here, this one's actually a functional air vent, and the reason this is important is because you can actually get a factory fitted snorkel for the Defender, which gets mounted here and goes all the way up to the top. So this is for anyone of you who is interested in water wading. You'll really need the snorkel. And also note that these roof rails, they're actually functional. They're really high up there, but they can take a load of up to 300 kgs. While I said the front of the Defender is boxy, it's actually the rear that puts into perspective how squared off an SUV can be. This has an almost 90-degree drop at the back, which makes it look so flat and upright, which gives it that slightly retro old school look. I think really suits the Defender. The other thing at the back is this massive tailgate mounted spare wheel. This is a full size spare wheel, 20-inch alloy with thick all-terrain rubber around it. And of course, I like these tail lights also a lot. This neo-retro design suits the Defender, new Defender, very well. And these tiny little indicator elements on the side pay homage to the older Defender. It used to have tiny little indicator lights on the outer section of the tail light. We also get a very chunky bumper down here, which adds to that rugged and off-road look of the Defender, with a dual exhaust setup at the bottom. These are actual dual exits. There are no fake finisher tips or anything, which is something I really like. While we're at the rear, let's also talk about the fact that there's no roof-mounted spoiler. Instead, Land Rover has done a very good job sculpting the roof. It dips in the center and it's quite angular, making it look more aerodynamic and giving it a slightly athletic stance. I also like the shark fin antenna, which actually has a camera on it for the inside rear view mirror's clear sight function. Oof, you really have to climb into the cabin of the Defender that high up off the ground. But once you're inside, there is a very nice look here. It's quite industrial. Some of the things that I really like, you see these exposed screws along here. They're there on the door cards as well. And even on the side, they've made these handles, grab handles on the edge of the dashboard that will help you get on, because they don't have the traditional grab handles up here. Once you're inside, it's actually a very nice place to be. Materials are quite high-end. Everything is either wrapped in nice leather. This is the top spec HSE model. Alternatively, it's got a rubberized finish, which is very, it feels robust and long-lasting. Like, this is all soft touch leather, soft touch rubber, my bad. And it's got a very utilitarian design on the whole. There is a big center console. As you can see, the gear selector is up here, essentially just under the screen. Now, when this car was unveiled a few years back, it came with the new PV Pro infotainment system. And honestly, the screen looked quite large back when it was introduced, but here in person, because of the sheer size of the cabin, the screen actually looks a little small. One might say it's not quite fitting the size of the car. That said, it's still fairly responsive. You can see all your climate controls are in here. You have your 360-degree cameras, which are also quite nice. Fairly crisp, nicely detailed, and they're quite accurate to place the car. You get an off-road camera also, which you can see under the car. It's quite cool. And there's a whole lot more that you can do. There's wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Now, I've been using this car all day and I've had slightly spotty luck with the wireless Android Auto. It kicks in and out every now and then. Little bit frustrating. But apart from that, the infotainment also has a lot of your four-wheel drive stuff. As you can see, there is your differential locks, your drive modes. This car can do 900 mm of water wading. So you have a sensor that tells you how deep the water in front of you that you are going through is, so that you can, fairly confidently go through deeper water sections. Unfortunately, I don't have a big off-road track to try it on, but I know how capable this is. I've seen the videos, and hopefully someday I will get to drive this on a proper off-road course. Here on the dashboard, there are some other things that I like. There's this cavity or recess that Land Rover has been able to get out, and this is essentially its support structure behind this, like the cross frame. So it feels so rugged in here. The nicer leathers do make it feel a little more upmarket than it is. This 4-spoke steering wheel also feels very nice in the hand, and I love this finish out here. It's like an anodized metal finish, and it feels so sturdy. Like, it feels like it's not gonna break no matter what you throw at it. Now, in terms of practicality, there's a whole host of charging ports up here. There's a Type-C port here, there's a Type-A USB port here, 12-volt charger, another Type-C port here. In terms of storage spaces, you get a big glove box here that you can see opens all the way back. It's actually a cool glove box, so you've got 2 cooling modes for it. There's a wireless charger here. There is a rubberized mat that is currently covering the 2 cup holders. If you don't need the cup holders, you put the mat in there and you can put your keys and whatnot out there. There's additional storage down here, which is quite deep, and honestly you can fit a lot in there. The glove box is a little on the smaller side, but it's pretty much fine considering how much space there is. Also, a neat feature out here is that there is storage space behind the infotainment screen. It doesn't take up the entire block, so you can actually put a few things here and there, maybe like your wallet. This panel here controls a lot. You have your AC controls here, which, as you can see, you have temperature controls, but all these dials do multiple things. So now if I am to click this button, I can change the fan speed, so it can go up all the way up to 7. I can drop that back down because I'm filming. If I click this button, I can change my terrain response modes. Yes, understood. And it's actually quite easy to switch between them. These are your drive modes actually, not your terrain response. So comfort, eco, gravel, snow. There isn't really a sports mode. There's a mode to go water wading. I'll just leave this in comfort for now. And another thing, if you click on these buttons, you can do the seat ventilation and heating that comes on this top spec model. If you rotate the dial to the left, 3 levels of seat cooling, and to the right, 3 levels of seat heating. So you can do that for each of the seats. I'm going to leave my seat cooling on. And yeah, this button will help you lower or raise the Defender's ride height if you're going on-road or off-road. It's actually quite cool how well this works. You have your low-range gearbox mode. If you click that, your gearbox goes into low range for getting out of the tighter off-road spots. You have your hill descent control, your auto start stop, and your traction control here as well. So there's a lot you can go through here. The digital instrument cluster up front is quite nice, 12.3 inches, very high resolution, very detailed. Unfortunately, it's missing a few things like the lane change monitor, which we're seeing in some of the newer cars, which is quite useful when it comes to day-to-day traffic maneuvering. You do get to see a lot of information in here though, with the Defender screen, which you can just cycle through your media, your trip, your display, your vehicle information, which will show you tire pressure, passenger airbag, other warning lights. It's actually quite nice. Unfortunately, it's not as customizable as some of the newer cars out there. Lastly, I'm also going to make a mention of the Meridian sound system on this model. It is very nice and very punchy lows and mids. So basic music, you'll really enjoy it. High-end sound, a little tinny if you have a preset profile, but if you leave it flat, it's actually quite nice. These front seats are quite accommodating. They have a large base, so that means under thigh support is pretty much taken care of. They're both electrically adjustable. You can, I think they're 10-way adjustable on the driver's side and on the passenger side. So forward, backward, recline, height and lumbar, which means that you can find a very comfortable seating position and get very comfortable driving this Defender. Ergonomic driving positions also very good. You sit high up, you have great visibility out of the road. The steering, it's dead center with you, so that means it'll be quite comfortable on longer drives. Another thing that I want to point out before I leave, these doors, the handles are low down, and unlike many other luxury SUVs, you really do need to shut this with a little bit of force in order for it to close. No soft close doors. Now getting in the back is also a climb up, but there's a conveniently positioned grab handle. Front seat is set to my driving position. I'm 6 foot tall, and you can see there's a decent amount of knee room in front of me, a few inches, and headroom is amazing. Like, there's so much, and that's despite having a panoramic sunroof. Now here in the back seat you get again a lot of charging ports like we did up front. So two 12-volt charging ports on either side, two Type-C ports, a nice cubby here to hold your phone, rear AC vents. Now I do wish that the AC vents were also there on the B-pillar, but unfortunately it's only in the center. Though it does a decent job of cooling the cabin down. Behind the seats you also get two USB Type-A ports for charging, as well as a area to mount a tablet holder for your rear seat entertainment. There's a nice armrest in the center. It's a little low for my liking, but if you slink down into the seat and get comfortable, you'll be able to use it. I do wish it was a little bit higher. It's got two cup holders here. The ISOFIX child seat mounting points on both outer seats, and 3-point seat belts again for all three passengers back here. Now the cabin is quite wide and the floor is quite flat, so even in the middle you won't be too uncomfortable. You could easily fit really for short distances. You won't want to go too far, but again you'll sit a little knees up, but good headroom, and there is a decent amount of shoulder room on offer as well. Besides that, this sunroof does not open as far back as you would expect it to, but what does make up for this is these cool safari windows. I really like how they look, and they give you a unique perspective out. The glass house is quite wide back here, comes down quite a way, so even if you're shorter, you won't feel very hemmed in or claustrophobic. So that's another plus point for the rear seats. You cannot recline these seats, unfortunately. They're set to the same one spot, but it's a decent recline angle. You won't be too uncomfortable, and there is space under the front seat to tuck your feet in, so even taller passengers can get comfortable and relax. The Defender has a side hinge hydraulically assisted tailgate which opens to a very large cargo space. With all 5 seats up, there's a massive 786 liters of space on offer, which can be increased to 1875 liters with the second row folded down. Do note that the 7-seat version does have slightly less space on offer than this 5-seat version. According to Land Rover's website, you can get a whole host of different powertrain options with the Defender. This ranges from a 4-cylinder petrol or diesel engine option to a 6-cylinder petrol or diesel engine option, and even a petrol V8. The variant I was driving was the P300, and this came with a 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo petrol engine that made a healthy 300 horsepower and 400 Newton meters of torque. The engine sends power to all 4 wheels via an 8-speed torque converter automatic gearbox. This is the P300 version of the Land Rover Defender, and it has a 2-liter turbo petrol under the hood. And this engine, which Land Rover calls Ingenium, is actually really refined. There is very little sound that filters into the cabin, and surprisingly, even as you pick up pace, the cabin is fairly quiet. I thought there'd be a lot of wind noise. Obviously right now I'm driving a little more sedately in the city, but just before, as I was on the highway stretch, it was fairly quiet. Now that we are in the city, it's worth talking about how this Defender feels on slightly tighter city roads. And to be honest, it actually feels quite good. I just love the driving position of the Defender. You just sit so high up and you have a commanding view out of the road, and there are very few other cars available in India that'll give you this sort of an experience. Honestly, short of a truck or a bus, there's probably very little that will make you feel as in command of the road as this Defender does, and I guess that is the big appeal. It really does have a very strong road presence, and while its dimensions don't make it the easiest to maneuver around town, it definitely does help push traffic away from you. Like, 2-wheelers and 3-wheelers will give you a wide berth just because they don't want to get in your way, and that's a great feeling. Let's talk about the ride quality also. The Defender in India as standard comes with air suspension, and I know Land Rover has the reputation of having things especially like air suspension fail, but at least while it's working, God, the ride is so nice. It is very plush. It takes up all sorts of road imperfections really well. You can hardly feel any of the small and medium size imperfections, despite it riding on fairly large wheels, and you sort of glide over most bumps, which is great for the low speed ride. And honestly, this is where the Defender is going to be used most, right, in city confines, on not so great roads, especially in like the smaller lanes of cities, as you can see here. But it'll really keep the occupants very well insulated, and it does a great job of sort of cocooning you. The high-speed ride of the Defender is also very nice. As you get to highway speeds, it really settles in, and there's very little vertical movement introduced into the cabin. This car feels so comfortable at home doing triple-digit speeds as I am right now. This would make for a great road tripping car. Okay, here we can talk about the steering and usability. The turning circle of the Defender is not great. It is
Yeah, I just about made that, and I took the turn wide, so it's not the most maneuverable thing around town, but that's also partially due to the four-wheel drive system it has that makes the turning ratio a little wider than you'd expect, but it is manageable. Like, you will get used to the dimensions and turning radius. So while it might not be the easiest thing to hustle around town, you do feel very confident driving it. And in the handling department, the Defender definitely does have some body roll, and the steering's light at low speeds, weighs up as you go up. It doesn't get very heavy and communicative, but it is enough for a car of this size. But what really impresses is how it contains body roll. For a car that's as tall and large as the Defender, taking it through corners, it really takes them fairly flat. It surprises me quite a bit how Land Rovers managed to keep roll in check. It can honestly take corners much better than I would have ever given it credit for. And obviously air suspension means that it can keep it slightly lower for city driving, and when you want to raise it for off-road situations, you can do that as well. To be honest with you all, I'm finding it quite difficult to sum up the Land Rover Defender. Look at it objectively and you'll see a very expensive luxury SUV, with prices ranging from 97 lakh and going up all the way to 2.2 crores for the V8 powered 110. Now, this means that it goes up against some really well-established rivals, such as the BMW X5, the Mercedes GLE, and the Audi Q7. You could even throw in the Volvo XC90 into the mix. All of these cars will offer more features, more comfort, and maybe even a little more space. But if I'm being totally honest with you all, I would not compare the Defender to these models. What in my head it competes with is the Mercedes G-Wagon and the Toyota Land Cruiser, because the road feel and road presence that the Defender offers is more in line with those heavy hitters. There's just something so cool about the neo-retro styling and the muscular overall appearance of the Defender. Pair that to the utilitarian cabin, there's just a sense of how long-lasting this could be, and that sense of you can go anywhere and tackle any obstacle that comes in your way with this Defender, which frankly you just don't get with the other SUVs I mentioned earlier. I might get roasted for saying this, but the easiest way to explain what the Defender feels from behind the wheel is take the sense you get from driving the Toyota Fortuner or even the Mahindra Scorpio and just dial that up to 12 and you'll get an idea of what it feels like being at the helm of this Defender. Do let me know if you agree with this statement. If not, let me know what you think of the Defender down in the comment section below. I'm eager to hear your take on it. Till next time, cheers.